Hi, I'm Julie Buck from the University of Idaho, Bingham County Extension Office. I'm a Family and Consumer Sciences educator there, and I am here with you right now to talk about pickling. Pickling is one of those parts of canning that people just aren't sure they want to do, and I think it takes some practice and some guidance to get your self-confidence built up, and it brings you to a place where you feel like you might want to try pickles once you've mastered fruits and some of the other vegetables. So I've been canning pickles for about 35 years, and I definitely have some favorites. So I want to show you some of my favorite canning pickle recipes, but let's talk about some of the basics at first. So at this point in your canning instruction, you've learned the basics of canning. You've learned water bath canning and pressure canning. You've learned dehydrating and freezing and jams and jellies. And so I want to just talk about pickles for just a minute, show you some examples and just a couple of tips that have helped me over the years to make canning pickles be a good experience. So remember, when we're selecting our produce, we want to make sure that it's fresh. And so I've grown pickles in my backyard. I've also picked pickles up from farmers markets when my backyard patch doesn't have enough and I just want to have a few more to finish up a batch I'm working on. So whether you grow your own or you purchase them from a produce counter or market, I want to make sure that you are ready to put those into the jars that very day. Pickles don't hold extremely well. The skins tend to get a little bit slimy if they're kept in the fridge at all. And so really plan that space of time when you can take pickles straight from picking to going into the jars. So we want to make sure we rinse those, whatever you're pickling. We don't want to soak them at all. We want them to stay as crisp and fresh as possible. We want to, again, make sure that you're using science-based recipes. And of course, we've got the U.S. Department of Agriculture Complete Guide to Canning. We also have Ball Book, has a lot of canning guides now. This is my tried and true copy while I'm here at home to share with you. So be sure you're following those recipes. They're going to already have figured out the pH, how long it takes to get the heat all the way through that food item at a safe temperature for you. So you can change some of the seasonings, but you don't ever want to change the main ingredients. You don't want to change the amount of vinegar, the amount of salt. You don't want to change any of those. If you wanted to add a few extra mustard seeds, if you're making mustard pickles, or if you wanted to add a few more garlic cloves to your dill pickle recipe, that would be fine. But don't ever change the amount of pickles in ratio to the amount of vinegar, because that's going to get us to the pH that's going to make it water bath safe, so that we're able to take care of those foodborne pathogens that might be in there. So that's very, very important. So be sure and follow those instructions as written exactly, and I want to just take you over a few of the ingredients that you probably come in contact with through your recipe. So let's start over here. We've got, first of all, we have canning salt. Regular canning salt does not have iodide in it. Iodide is an essential mineral for humans to not get goiters. So table salt has iodide added to it. Canning salt does not. The reason we don't have it in canning salt is because we don't want to have a lot of iodide in our diet, in our intake. We definitely don't want the amount that comes in the high amount of salt in our pickled recipes. And it also can precipitate out and cause cloudiness in our pickled products, so and bitterness. So don't use regular table salt, use canning salt if your recipe calls for canning salt. There are a couple of other helps to make sure that your pickles are crisp. So I want to introduce these to you as well. And if you've hesitated with pickles in the past, or you haven't liked them because they have been soft and not like the commercial pickles you're finding in the store, then I would suggest you follow the recipe on the back of these packages. So this is just pickling and canning salt. So this is going to just be regular canning salt. It's just like what I just showed you, only it's a different brand. But it does have a kosher dill pickle recipe on the back that is really, really quite good. So if you like a typical classic dill pickle recipe, this one is good as well. So then let's say, for instance, that you want to take it up just a notch and add lime. Lime is also a product, a mineral that is safe for human consumption, and it also makes our pickles crisp. So again, there's a pickle recipe on the back of pickling lime. Now you don't have to have this. You can just use regular canning salt for sure, but I'm telling you that to get that commercial grade crispness to your pickle, you're probably going to want to add, I'd recommend you add a hardening agent. Alum is another one, A-L-U-M is another one that you can find in some recipes as well. So again, we want to make sure you're using regular canning jars. These are tempered so they can withstand the high temperatures in a water bath or pressure canner. You've already learned about checking for cracks in your rim. Want to make sure your canning jar is still intact, and you'll want to sterilize these, which means you wash and rinse in a heat that's very high. I typically sterilize in my dishwasher. So that is a good way to start, and the proper way to start with your proper canning jar. Save all those other jars for other things like your dried foods. That's a great way to use a non-canning jar. Some of the tools that you've learned about canning are the jar lifter. This is very helpful to get your jars in and outside of your water bath canner or your pressure canner. So you'll just want to make sure that when your jars are sitting in your canner and ready to take out and put in, that you're using the jar lifter on either end of that process. Just pinch it together, lift it straight up and straight out, and put it onto a heat-safe surface. This is a granite countertop. I wouldn't put it on a granite countertop if I were canning. I would use my wood cutting board, or towels would work as well. A couple of other tools that are really helpful when you're doing pickles is to get your little measuring tool right here, and it also helps to get the air out of your jars when you go down the side of your jar. So if you'll want to pick one of these up, if you haven't treated yourself to a new canning tool, this is a really nice one. And then if it says that you're 1/4 of an inch from the top, or a 1/2 inch or 3/4 or an inch, you just use this on the edge and you'll know how full to fill it with water. You'll go ahead and wipe your rim. I use paper towels to make sure there's no residue on your rim. Then you'll go ahead and pick up your canning lid with this wonderful magnet tool. If you haven't treated yourself to one of these are also pretty awesome. And these follow your manufacturer guidelines for your lids. Kerr has moved their sure-tight lids to just washing them with warm water and soap and just drying them. We don't have to hold them in a pan of hot water anymore. So then you would just place this on. Of course, this is a wide mouth. I have a regular jar, but you would have the right size lid for yours. So you would put that on your jar to get ready to put the ring on, okay? Another important thing about the rings, and of course this is an already processed jar of pickles, is you'd want to make sure that you turn that lid to just finger tight. Don't crank it really tight, just barely finger tight. We want to allow some expansion of the rubber on the lid and for it to interface with that ring. So make sure that you only do it finger tight before you put it into the canner. I want to show you some of my favorite pickles that I like to do and just encourage you to explore. I think easy is what your level is. I would start with dill. I think they're extremely easy to do. And so I'll just show you a couple of jars of dill that I've done. These are just, this is a wide mouth jar, and these are just pickles that I was able to fit in a wide mouth jar. I picked a wide mouth jar because I had more space at the top to stuff the cucumbers in. And then I just went ahead and poured my pickle brine on it and processed them. So if you like whole dill pickles, these are nice. I like doing whole dill pickles because then I can make spears out of these, I can make slices out of these. They're all ready to go, but if you want it even easier than that, you can definitely do, here I've done just slices because I wanted to fit as many pieces of pickle in a jar as I could. So you take those nice size deals and just slice them and put them in. So these are sliced deals. And then, no, these are bread and butter pickles. So I have two kinds of bread and butter pickles. I'll just show you the one that uses the mustard seed in it. So those were some of my deals. These are sweet. So if you like a sweet sliced pickle, these have, they have mustard seed and dill in the bottom. So they also are sweet. So a little bit of tart with sweet. I grew up with these. I like these on sandwiches. I like them on hamburgers. So if you like a sweet sliced pickle, bread and butter pickles are really easy to do. You use up a lot of cucumbers, which they grow prolifically. So if you like to fit a lot of cucumbers in one jar, then go with slices. If you want to fit even more cucumbers because you're so tired of them growing and you're running out of jars, then do relish. So relish is a really nice product. This has got mustard seed in it. It's got peppers and onions, and you just take those cucumbers and you just cut them into really small pieces. You can make relish out of a lot of different things. You can make cucumber relish. These are cucumbers. Oh, did I say cucumbers? You can make zucchini. Yeah, zucchini relish as well. So you can really pickle just about anything you want. If you want, pickle carrots, pickle dilly beans. Those are really, really good. Pickled beets. I haven't done those for years, but when we had a large plot, I would do pickled and regular beets. So lots of things you can pickle, and just really whatever you're interested in. So the recipe that I'm associating with this class today is corn relish. And corn relish is really nice with pork. It is so good that it is a relish, so it's not quite a side dish, but because it's got corn as its main ingredient, it acts as a nice smaller side, if you could consider it as that. But it's really nice. You can use it on sausages. You can put it with potatoes. Doesn't necessarily have to be with a protein. And so basically you're going to have vinegar, sugar, salt. You're going to use 4 cups of cooked corn kernels. And it says that it's about 8 ears. So it just as an optional way to do this, I've actually used frozen kernel corn. So for instance, I chose this recipe right now because it's March and we don't have cucumbers available. So you can definitely go to the freezer section and get frozen corn. You could use, I wouldn't suggest canned corn because it's been processed a little bit longer, but you could even buy frozen corn on the cob and cut the kernels off and then get the 4 cups of cooked or blanched corn kernels. Then this is where it gets fun. You're going to add 2 cups of mixed red and green peppers. Now you get to decide, but remember that you can't change the major ingredients in this recipe. So you need to keep the 2 cups. If you wanted them 2 all green or 2 all red, that's fine. But remember that they have figured out the pH and the flavor balance, so stay with that amount of pepper. And then we're gonna do 2 stalks of celery diced, a half a cup of chopped onion. We're gonna add 1 tablespoon of dry mustard, and then, a teaspoon of mustard seed, 1 tablespoon of mustard, 1 tablespoon of dry mustard, 1 teaspoon of celery seeds, and 1 teaspoon of ground turmeric. And as you know, we're gonna get our water bath canner boiling. We're gonna heat the jars, get them nice and hot, and then we're gonna combine the vinegar, the sugar, and the salt in a large saucepan, bring it to a boil, and really we're just dissolving the sugar to just get it ready, all mixed up. We're gonna go ahead and add the corn, the red and green peppers, and then we're gonna go ahead and add the celery, onion, and all the other seasonings. We're gonna reduce the heat and simmer for 15 minutes, ladle into your hot jars with a 1/2 inch of headspace, remove the air bubbles, wipe your rims, and go ahead and put those lids on, just fingertip tight. Go ahead and place those in a water bath canner, and we're going to adjust for altitude. So at our altitude, we would process this for 25 minutes. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, you can reach out to me at jhbuck@uidaho.edu. Thank you so much.